the Chase Thomas Podcast, for people who have nothing but time to kill.
Willie Martinez played about 4 corners last year before Haddon got hurt, so he was rotating pretty good. Who's he going to rotate with right now? I like their first 2. I need to see 3 and 4 develop this spring.
Absolutely. Who will be the Brent Hubbs guy from the 2024 class?
I love Boot Carter. I mean, just the more I watch Boot Carter play this past fall, I mean, he's so dynamic with the ball in his hands. He's such a good athlete. He's got, to me, he feels like he's got the it factor from a competitive standpoint. I'm just so intrigued. So intrigued by who he is and what he can do to help this team. And look, skill guys are easier to jump on, right? Mike Matthews. Yeah. I mean, I love the Staley kid that they took from South Carolina. I think he's a really good player who's going to make an impact. I'll tell you a couple of guys that I'm really interested in seeing, not necessarily for this fall, but out of this class, is a guy like Gage Ginther, the offensive lineman from Colorado. Yeah. Could he play center? Is that a guy that's a look at center, or is he just a guard all the way? I think that's
so you think tackle's out for him potentially?
Yeah, I mean, well, maybe. I mean, right tackle, I guess you could do that. I'm curious to see where he factors in and what he looks like, because I think he's a good football player. I really do. I think that is one of those that's going to be a good football player. I think Jesse Perry has a bunch of upside, but he's so raw, he doesn't know what he can or can't be just yet, on the offensive line, which is intriguing. And, of course, Bennett Warren's not here. The Ross kid from down in Alabama's not here yet. Those are 2 guys you'd love to see this spring, but I think those guys can step in and be interesting factors, in 25 for sure. So those are some guys that I'm intrigued by. But the beautiful thing about this roster right now is, I mean, you need Boot Carter to be able to be a return guy for you because you lost D. Williams. But you look at that 24 class, and you love Mike Matthews. And Mike Matthews should be somewhat of a factor, but Mike Matthews doesn't have to come in and be the guy right out of the gate. I mean, who on that roster that they're coming in, and that's a credit to Josh Heupel and the staff and where they've got this roster at right now, that you're not giving out starting positions when you hand out uniforms. And Tennessee just went through too many years where guys were starters by default. Hey, Darnell Wright, you're the most talented guy. You're not ready. You're overweight. You're not sure, but you're the best guy we got. Figure it out. We're going to throw you out there at tackle. You figure it out against, 21, 22-year-old men who have been playing college football for 3 years. Good luck. Yeah. Right. I mean, Alontae Taylor was a wide receiver that they flipped to DB and said, hey, not only are you playing DB, you're a starter. Congratulations. I know you haven't practiced yet, but you're a starter. And Tennessee's not in that world now, which I think is awesome. I mean, that's why you're seeing Tennessee with the odds that you're seeing about them, because it's just not a situation, Chase, where they're just playing out of necessity half of their freshman class in critical roles like we've seen in years past.
And it's a good problem to have. It's just that's where we are in the development, right? Like that's year 4
exactly
in the
what
hype
you're looking for. I mean, listen, I think Peyton Lewis is at running back's got a chance to be a really good player. Yeah. But I don't think Peyton Lewis has to be any kind of man or the guy. Of course, he'll miss spring practice because he's recovering from some injury stuff and surgery. But even a year ago, I mean, I like Cam Seldon. Cam Seldon got to sit back and be the 4th guy. Learn every day in practice. We'll get you some reps in when it's mop-up duty time. And then, of course, you get to the bowl game and you get some increased opportunities. But he had practiced for, 16, 18 weeks to get ready for that point. That's what you want to have happen. Now, he's got to take a big step this spring. But you feel good about him because he's had a year to develop instead of going, hey, you got to go, man. You got to play. Yeah. You don't have any other options. We got to, we have to play you. And that's what, you'd like to bring Peyton Lewis along a little bit slowly, particularly.
You want Khalifa Keith to be a bigger factor. You want him to be, you want him to pop. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, you got some bodies there and you want, you don't want to have to just put it all on a 17, 18-year-old kid and say, hey, you're the guy. And that's, Tennessee's not in a position where they have to do that with many guys in many positions, if any, at all this spring or this fall.
Yeah, I guess it's really the only person I would say maybe is Lance Hurd, where it's like you don't have a lot of start experience, but I mean, he has a year behind 2 elite offensive tackles to learn at
Yeah,
LSU
I
for the
mean,
last year.
he's a little bit different because he's a transfer and he's been on the
Yeah,
college campus. I mean, he knows how to practice. He
yeah.
knows what it takes, day in and day out. These
Just a
other
lot of
kids.
pressure on him right out of the gate.
Oh yeah, now he's but they brought him here to be the man, just like
Yeah.
they did John Campbell a year
Mhm.
ago. But those guys understand that because that's the portal. The
Yeah.
high school kids think they're going to be the man, but they've lived in a world from the time they were 7, 8 years old where they have been the absolute best player on their team.
Mhm.
Okay,
I mean,
but
you gotta watch some of these Jordan Ross high school tapes at
right,
Vestavia Hills. They're
I
like
mean,
the
just
man
but I
he
mean,
is
but you know what? I mean,
mm,
some of those. There's been a lot of guys who were man childs and elementary, middle, and high school, and it takes a minute,
yeah.
right? I mean, is James Pierce any better athletically now than he was when he arrived on campus? He's bigger and stronger, but in
Mhm.
terms of twitch and quickness off the ball, first step, all those things, he's probably not any much different than he was when he arrived.
Yeah.
Okay, but when he arrived and he did those moves he did in high school, which was, hey, I'm going to outrun everybody off the edge. Darnell Wright caught him and threw him about 5 yards, behind the play.
Mhm.
So he had to learn, and these guys have to, these guys who are elite high school players have to learn. That's where you have so much respect for a guy who comes in and plays as a freshman on the offensive line and is a good offensive lineman as a freshman, not just a guy surviving. I mean, I go back, several years, but I mean, Aaron Sears was a guy who midway through his freshman year, like, okay, this guy's different. Obviously Jamal Lewis got off the bus and was like, okay, Travis in, okay, these guys can play, and
Mhm.
certain positions it's easier to do that at. But
Nicely
you
done,
there's
nephew.
there's a learning curve.
The
for
Chase
these guys.
Thomas podcast. Hell yeah.